course, from the Buddhist viewpoint, there's of course there are higher beings. But again, I think our meetings seems how to develop harmony among the different religious traditions. Then, of course, they discuss about the similarity of different religious faith. That's very relevant. Now, suppose today I feel the education and method or approach to sustain human basic values, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer. That's my main concern. Suppose, I think, main purpose of our today's meeting, today's discussion is how to what's the best method? What's the way to make clear our humanity, the importance of human deeper values, love, compassion, forgiveness, these things. So in a way, they're not relying on God, but ourselves, how to develop that. That's I thought. And of course, each individual, I myself, I'm, broadly speaking, I am a believer. I am a Buddhist monk. So, for my own sort of improvement, I utilize as much as I can about Buddhist way of approach. But I never touch when I talk with other people. That's my business. The other people, of course, I always talk about our common kasa, our common views, our common sort of the potential, not this unique thing. So now, frankly speaking, when our brothers, sisters, she talks about God, Creator, then in a Buddhist, in a way, I am non-believer. I think some Buddhists there. So the Buddhist concept, no creator. But at the same time, we also accept, like Buddha or Bodhisattvas, yesterday we discussed this briefly, that there are higher beings. But if we rely everything on higher being, we just sit here leisurely. Won't help. Won't help. So that's my view. So the problem is, if we involve religious faith, then there are so many variety of religions. Yes. And there are fundamentally different sort of views of the diversity. So very complicated. I think that's why in India, I think when the independent sort of India sort of constitution is developed, then they deliberately use the secular, because there are so many religions. If the state should be a religious state, then what religion?
Yes.
Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, and Jews, and Zoroastrian, and Jains, and Sikhism, so many. And I think the more fundamental problem is, usually I call godly religion, godless religion. This is the fundamental problem. But who decides which is right? Nobody. So that's, I think, better to live
God
mystery way. I think in order to be a good leader, I think a lot of qualities need. So then out of many, only two. I don't know. Perhaps according my way of approach, a better world or better leader, perhaps I think the knowledge very important, and they pursue realistically, objectively, without involving emotion. I think that's important. As I mentioned earlier, you see, in order to build happier world or happier nation, happier family, not religious ground, as I mentioned earlier, but because you see, everyone you see, want happy life. Now, in order to achieve long-lasting, healthy, happy life, the world as one entity is very important. Then one's own nation, one's own community, one's own family. So therefore, realize that, and then accordingly act realistically, according to reality. Then another thing, I think reality, everything interconnected, not single sort of a factor. Now, for example, you see the violence usually take place. Then if you look realistically, then that unjust or that event, not just one single, or all the certain it happened. No, a lot of causes, conditions. So in emotion level, when you saw some problem and develop anger, and during that moment, you cannot see the objectively whole thing, but just one absolute target. Then you find, this is the target, so I can hit. But reality, not that simple. Many things interconnected. So as soon as you look from a wider perspective, then anger will not find independent target. So I feel everything approach more realistically, objectively, the fuller knowledge about the reality. I think that's important. That is the chi junga the naga junga George to that 야야 대치면 있는 터만 점을 디가는 중 터마 차가 전에는 저희들이 더 시에도 연습을
Of course, on a mysterious level, there has got to be a connection between the sentient beings that are living on a particular physical environment and the natural environments where these beings live. Because even from a kind of a scientific point of view, if we were to trace the origin of the material body of all the sentient beings, at some point they all have to converge together. But still, it is a very mysterious idea, this connection.
And that has due to different philosophy, many ancient Indian philosophy, there's different sort of explanation about the external 5 elements and the internal 5 elements And within the internal 5 elements, the grosser level, more subtle, and very, very subtle level. 어제다 까면 좋은 상황도 챙기면 누가?
His Holiness was saying that it's also quite difficult to remember all the things that the exchanges that took place.
나도 콩국수 원도 진짜 다다서 느끼려시다.
So, in a sense, His Holiness should probably follow what Professor Ebadi was saying, that we should, act according to the present circumstances.
And one thing, of course, such sort of serious discussion, I think very, very useful. Because if we sort of say, goes just usual, right? Day-to-day life or what's the 안 돼도 여대가 들리다 short of 시시 다가도 집에 있나? reality 주르도 와. 안 줘. attitude 주르도 와.
Because if we just act as if business as usual, without giving much thought to our existence, then since reality will be changing all the time, we won't be able to adapt to the fast-changing reality.
So discuss the old ideas may not be realistic or can implement, but no harm. Explore. Discuss. So especially like this university, I think that's wonderful. So from time to time, more discussions. And perhaps I think in among the participant, some scientists, some thinkers, some religious leaders or philosopher, or some businessmen. I think a variety of people, and more discussion. I think that would be useful. After listening, I think seems many levels of sense of community. Of course, like your First Nations First Nation community. In order to build sense of community within your own group, your culture, your language, your sort of spirituality is very important. We Tibetan also doing exactly that. Try to keep or try to preserve our own culture, our own language, and Buddhism as well. Because these things helpful to keep Tibetan spirit. Then, irrespective of whether they are family relative or not, the being as a Tibetan, there's some kind of feeling there. Then another level. Now, here we are, our main concern is humanity, that level. So now, one way in order to develop the sense of humanity, human community, each community, they should have, I think, deep satisfaction. And their own sort of level satisfied, then there is real possibility to further develop the sense of human community, world community. But each one, their own level, much frustration, then impossible to develop the sense of world community. Clear? At the same time, the too much emphasis on the first level, and sometimes, you see, often, you see, in our mind, for example, religion, although various religious traditions have same potential, same message to strengthen, the human value. But sometimes, no. So, according to that, humanity first. One's own religious, one's own religious community second. So we must support this. We must not create obstacle for this. But sometimes opposite. We felt our own faith is more important than humanity. So similarly, in order to get some satisfaction for our own community, sometimes forget about humanity. This is exactly now happening. These are the problem. But now we are trying to seek some method to overcome that problem. So I believe that through education, deeper awareness, awareness on the basis of fact. Today, Canada no longer complete sort of, independence or separation. Canada's sort of profit of well-being much depend on other part of the world. For example, I think the Arab world, sometimes, you see, they have maybe some cases, negative sort of attitude, or Western industrialized nations appears to them not very positive way, but in economy field, they need industrialized nations. They have to sell their oil. Oil cannot drink. have to sell. Not for nomad, but those industrialized nations. The industrialized nations create some picture or Muslim world is little different. But in order to fulfill your industry, your car, those oil producers are very important. That's the reality now. So, in economy field, religious faith is because they're now secondary, whether Muslim or whether or China, people's problem with China. Of course, China as a nation, of course. Now I think the majority of at least I think half of the population there, I think now becoming religious minded. But still the government suppose radical atheist, communist. But in spite of that, you see, China is very important because of the economic field and also environment issue. The other world, ideologically, maybe sort of opposed system, opposed democratic countries in the West, you see, the totalitarian regimes and closed society not go well. But in the economic field, you have to work together. Then environment issue also now. Because of that. So everything interdependent or interconnected. Now educate these things. Right? these facts are the basis to make aware. It's a fact. Then individual case. So here now we need, if we talk about 22nd century, our grandson, grandchildren, we have to think at the present, we have to remember it's their future. We go on, but our grandchildren, they have to live. Their life should be prosperity. So we have the responsibility. Now I think today's many problems which we are facing is actually a product of 20th century. And many problems during 20th century faced 19th century's product or consequences. So now accordingly, if we really want happier world in future, then we have to act now. It is of no use to just feel regret what happened or what happened today. So then all these factors, if we sensibly, if we use common sense, not necessarily listen God's word, but if you listen, if you study carefully the reality, then automatically you develop a conviction. We have to work together. I cannot achieve my own interest while neglecting about others' interest, because we are one. I think one example, one German physicist, a great physicist, von Weizsäcker. Now his age, I think, 90, over 90. I consider him as my quantum physics teacher. So I want small stories. I got a few lessons from him about quantum physics. And when he explained, and it seems I understand something. Then I finished that lesson, nothing left here. So that means hopeless student. The point is, he once told me, when he was young, practically every German's eye, French is enemy. Negative attitude. Now, the later part, in his eye, French no longer as an enemy. But same, French is French, German is German. But because of the new circumstances, new reality, now that attitude changed. The French not changed into German, or German changed into French, but still remain. French speak French, German speak German language, with their own culture, perhaps including their own German issue. Lutheran Church. Okay, will not be hindrance, right? So that is the proper development. That's the new reality. I think so. We need the sense of global responsibility or the sense of oneness of entire humanity, not from the viewpoint of something holy, but a necessity. Like the European Union, in 19th century or 20th century, early period of 20th century, these small nations fighting for their own sovereignty on these things. Now today, out of necessity, they have to together. They have to union, an economic union. Now some even talking about political union. These things are out of necessity. New reality, new concept must have. So this, I think, we can change these things through information, through education. Give them because of a fact. Then, meantime, explain. Then, individual level also, more warm-hearted sort of experience. It's the best way to prevent illness, and also very, very useful to recover quickly. The other day, I mentioned my or one of our scientific sort of meeting. One the medical scientist, he showed his data, and then he mentioned that those people who often use word me and my and I, that these people have greater risk of heart attack. So these are now fact. Through scientific way, now they find the fact, the reality. Now we have this intelligence. We have to act realistically. And past, I think, less knowledge. So self is most important. Now knowing more fact, then, of course, the attitude will change. So that's why I'm emphasis the importance of education in order to change our attitude, not through prayer. Of course, those people, including myself, of course, I pray every day for 5 hours. Prayer, meditation, recitation. But I think 4 or 5 hours my meditation will not change world. Change world must carry by people themselves. Then perhaps I think the sustainable survey. Sustainable. Here, I think firstly, I don't know, you see, according to your faith, whether fit or not, the population, some check population, that's important. Now, too much population now. We have to think that also new because of the reality. From the Buddhist viewpoint also, the Buddhism, each individual life we consider very, very precious. Therefore, obstacle to give way, to have one new precious life is a mistake or wrong. But now, new reality, the entire precious life now facing problem. So now, in order to get some benefit to the entire sort of the precious life, some sort of proper plan. If you hear the word birth control is more negative, then family plan, perhaps more nicer. So you have to think about that. Then second, like I think North American, your way of life, I think very luxurious. Some of these, of course, native people sometimes is still difficult, right? But those, the colonizer, those colonizer, these really, really sort of enjoy. You see, there are certain, because of the luxury sort of way of life. Actually, all the industrialized nations and northern nations, northern world, they have surplus. And southerners, even basic sort of necessities not sufficient. Some are facing starvation. But I think in Africa, in Africa and some other places, I think some cases their own mistake. They neglected about agriculture or these things. Rather, they concentrate on weapons. So bullet, gun available, food not available. Bad.
I would like to disagree with you about something.
Oh, yes.
When you were saying before that meditation doesn't do anything, I go to Tonglen, I go to metta meditation, I go to engaged Buddhism that comes only because a person is checking out what's going on inside of him. If I don't have examination of conscience in my meditation, I will not change my behavior. And my behavior will change only because I begin to see the larger picture inside of myself. And I'm speaking for Buddhism.
Yes, that's of course, I fully agree. I think if you find some good things in me, I think, firstly, I'm a human being, I have the potential or seed. Then second, because of the Buddhist practice, Buddhist training of mind, I think some of these positive potential blossomed away, developed. So of course, individual cases, of course, the faith is very, very, very useful, very powerful for everyone, the Muslim or Christianity, or Christians or Jews or so on, Hindus and Sikhs, or anyone. You see, provided be very sincere, very serious, then really this religious faith makes differences, tremendous sort of, not only next life, but within this life, day-to-day life, immense benefit. There's no doubt. But I'm talking or aiming not only believer, but those, including those Chinese brothers in Peking. I'm not really too glad. So sorry. So the lifestyle, I think eventually they have to change, but not by rule, but self-awareness, discipline, contentment. Yes, if I usually if someone spent and big hotel and very expensive alcohol, what really use that? I think eventually ruin your liver. And also I think wasting your time. The other hand, in some other part of the world, even water, drinking water, now facing problem. So remember that if I spend a lot of money for just not much useful sort of drink, really, indirectly, although you feel, but this is my own money, I have every right, nobody is right to tell me that. I use my own money out of my own hard work. But remember, same planet, same human being facing a lot of problems. So remember that out of knowing that, and in order to some help to these poor people. My expenses, little sort of the less. Then I can utilize that money, not just charity, but give them education and health, and eventually equipment to change their own way of life, to develop their own economy. So everybody usually have some connection, welfare, well-being of entire humanity.